Salute, salute. Welcome back to Movie Talk. I am your host, Rick. The Movie Talk Pod is back. We back in the building, man. It's been a minute. I haven't recorded an episode of Movie Talk since like November. I just got super busy, man. I've been working on a couple of the podcasts, so I kind of fell back from this one, But being the movie head that I am, I couldn't fall back for too long, man. Even though November is a long time, man, I still been watching movies. I still been wanting to record. I just haven't gotten around to actually dropping an episode. But I said, you know what? Today we're going to drop an episode, man. We're going to get back in the algorithms. We're going to get these numbers back up, and let's get to it. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, please check out previous episodes. I'm not a movie critic. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to really break down the movie by scenes and, by actors and who's this actor and who they should have played or who could have did it better and this and that. I'm just here to talk about movies in the way I like to talk. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully I can refer y'all to some movies if you haven't seen them, But yeah, man, we back in the building, man. Today I do want to talk about a movie called Squeeze. This joint came out in 1997. I'll give you the storyline. I'll read you the storyline. Ty, Hector, and Bao are close friends in a tough section of Boston where they're called the PG-13 crew. They're 14. Decent kids with a few skills who bailed out of school. A small gang of older tough guys led by Marcus and Tommy menace them in the PG-13's fight back and rob one of the gang. Marcus and Tommy vow to kill them. They seek protection from Derek, a drug dealer who agrees to help them if they sell drugs. Meanwhile, Ty is recruited to work at a community center by JJ, its quiet leader. Ty and his friends are in the squeeze. Surrounded by violence, drugs, and no opportunities. Is there any way out? Now, that was pretty much the storyline. Like I said, three teens, three friends growing up in Boston. They call themselves the PG-13 crew. You know what I'm saying? They're like young, they're not, watching the movie, they're not gangster. You know what I'm saying? But, when you coming up, everybody got a crew name. Everybody called themselves something. You know what I'm saying? So they called the PG-13. And they actually get into it with some older guys, right? They get into it with some older guys. And the thing is, the older guys started with them. Now, it's an older crew. Like I said, they PG-13. They like 14. So let's say this crew is like 17, 18. You know what I'm saying? Maybe even 19. They driving around and shit. They look way older than them. But one of the kids, they was at the one of their little jobs or hustles was pumping gas. So of course the older crew pull up to the gas station. They go, they pump their gas. You know what I'm saying? Little man came around the corner, came around the car. He's kind of like, standing there trying to get a tip. Like, I just wiped your windows down. I pumped your gas. And they looking like, yo, man. So he gives them like a quarter or something. Right? He gives them a quarter. And then he, dude in the back, as they pulling off and shit, they looking at him and shit. As they pulling off, they was just like, yo, he just spit in my man's face. Like for no reason. He just spit in his face. Right? He just spit in his face. So that's why they got into it with him. It wasn't like they're not like bad kids. You know what I'm saying? They just kids in the hood that have it, a tough home life, So he spits in his face. So, of course, they're not going to let that rock. They end up catching him by himself. They beat him up. They steal his pack. You know what I mean? He has some drugs on him. They steal it. And that's how they start to do their little 1-2. Now, again, they're not really gangsters like that, but they standing up for themselves. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happened. So then that just spirals a whole bunch of events after. You know what I'm saying? That's why they had to go seek protection, from the older guys, but now they got to stand on his corners so they could be protected. But you can't just stand out there for free. Now you got to work for him. You know what I'm saying? Home life for them isn't the best. You know what I'm saying? I think the dude Bao, I think he probably has the most structured home. The other guy, I forget his name, but his mom is an addict. The other guy lives with his aunt. You know what I'm saying? So they end up running away and just kind of just being on their own. And overall, it's a good story because it shows a lot of what happens to the youth in these urban cities, in these urban communities. You know what I'm saying? Now, even though this movie took place in 1997, that same thing is still going on now with the youth. This era of youth is very violent. You see it all the time on the news, on social media. This generation of youth is very, very violent, So it's like a cycle, It may look different, it may sound different, but it's still the overall same cycle. You know what I'm saying? These guys, they weren't street kids, but they got caught up in the streets. They could, moms and parents is there. They had no guidance, right? He's trying to do good. I'm out here. I'm trying to work. Even though I'm getting laughed at. You're giving me a quarter. Matter of fact, he licked the quarter when he pumped his gas. He licked the quarter and stuck it to his forehead. He stuck it to his forehead. You know what I'm saying? He stuck it to his forehead. So that was crazy. Like who's gonna tolerate that? You don't lick no quarter and stick it on my forehead, man. So and then like I said, now after you go do that, we're not really gangsters like that. So now I need protection. Hey Derek, yo, let me go and let's go talk to Derek. But Derek is just like, yo, what you gonna do for me? You know what I'm saying? Stand on my corners, you gotta move my drugs. And there you have it. You know what I'm saying? But I miss that. I miss that type of movie. Because what do this era or this generation of kids got to look for, movie wise? You know what I'm saying? Like it's just weird. They're not really making, back then, they made movies that reflect what was going on. They're not doing that no more. You know what I'm saying? There's no movies reflecting what's going on. It's barely any movies out. And when it is movies out, it's like a big blockbuster. You know what I'm saying? A big Marvel or something like that. Because if it ain't like a big $1 billion budget type movie, it don't even stay in the movie theater but a month, 3 weeks to a month. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, there's no real messaging. There's no urban movies at all. You can't go to the movies and see this type of movie. You know what I'm saying? You can't go to the movie theater and see this type of movie. You just can't. You got to get that straight to DVD. You got to go to Prime, or you got to go somewhere and maybe you could stumble across a low budget type of quality of this type of movie. You understand? But overall, you're not going to see it. And it's sad. It's sad because the youth need to see this type of stuff so they can see what's going on. They can see the other side of another outcome of this. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe if the right youth watches this type of movie and he'd be like, damn, that's how I'm moving. And you see what happened to them, that can make that kid change their life, hopefully. You know what I'm saying? But if the only thing they seeing is shit that glorifies what they doing, why would they change? Because they don't see past what they doing. So they don't really see the consequences of that shit. These kids ain't thinking about jail till they in jail. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all was young. We all was told not to do something, and you don't look past that until you get into that situation. Then you say, damn, I should have listened. But if they was making movies reflecting this, you know what I'm saying? We had Boys in the Hood. We had Juice. We had, Above the Rim. We had New Jack City, Higher Learning, Menace to Society. We had all of these movies reflecting what was going on. This era, this generation don't got none of that shit. They don't. You know what I'm saying? They don't. And all those movies was a direct correlation to the hood and what's going on. Why aren't they making movies like that anymore? With all these kids running around shooting things up and, you know, being super violent and things like that, why aren't they figuring out a way to make that movie with a message? Because all those movies from the Boys in the Hoods, the Juices, any of those movies you could think of, or any of those movies, if you're from that era and from that time and those are your favorite movies, you know those movies had messages in them. You know what I'm saying? Just because a movie has a message in it, don't make it not a good movie. Don't make it a soft movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, that movie had a message in it. You know? And it's wild because it's just like, yo, there's nothing wrong with that. But for whatever reason, they're not giving us movies with messages. And I'm sure that this era, this generation can relate to one of these characters in this movie. You know? Think about it. One character's mom was a real addict, real strung out, right? Another character, Bao, I think he had, I can't remember what his parents was like. And then the other kid lived with his aunt. You know what I'm saying? And she was like real strict type shit. But again, they were still all poor. Like, it was one scene. They had one scene there where they was on the porch eating cereal, sharing a box of cereal. No milk, no nothing, just a box of cereal. Like, you understand what I'm saying? So they come from nothing, and they have to go out here and try and figure it out because they don't have no adults. It wasn't until he got into the youth center thing to try to get like a summer job type situation. You understand what I'm saying? And that's the problem too, that a lot of there's no youth programs, no youth activities going on, nothing, man. You know, nothing. You know, but hey, man. Wild times, man, wild times. But like I said, this movie came out in 1997. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm an 80s baby. This is my era. You know, and I'm here to put y'all on, you know, to something you might not have seen before, things like that. So if you haven't, now again, this ain't like a big budget blockbuster movie or none of that, you know, but it's a good watch. It's definitely a good watch. It's definitely something to watch and, you know, just get a perspective on how some of the youth live or lived, you know, in that time. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you didn't grow up in that time frame and you kind of wanted to know what it was like in that time frame. Go check it out, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, this movie is called Squeeze. It came out in 97. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, it's something to watch. It's definitely something to watch. I think you'll enjoy it if you watch it. You know, it's a few jewels in there. You know what I'm saying? And you could get a perspective on inner city youth at that time. You know what I'm saying? And I really wish that Hollywood would start doing a better job in making some movies reflecting, you know, today's times. You know what I'm saying? You know, in the 90s and the 80s, 70s, and, you know, when you go back, you got movies that reflect in those times, man. Right now, I'm not really seeing a lot of movies that's reflecting what's going on out here in these communities. Those stories aren't getting told. And if they're getting told, they're somewhere on just a straight to, you know, like Tubi or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And I've said this before, and I've said this in conversation that, you know, a lot of people make fun of Tubi, you know, but Tubi has a lot of good storylines. And if you don't know what Tubi is, it's a streaming app. It's a free streaming app. It's probably on your TV, you know. But it's a free streaming app, you know, and they pretty much, I don't know how they go about picking who they gonna let, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how they go about picking who gonna get on there, who movies they gonna play. But yeah, they do got some wild movies. People be scene changing, moving, and all type of shit go on in there. But some of them stories, man, is good stories. Now, the movie probably not be shot well. The acting is ridiculous, but the storyline is good. And, you know, I'd be saying, like, yo, if Hollywood just go and snatch some of them up and, you know, revamp it, you know what I'm saying? They can have a lot of gems, man, a lot of gems. You know, like I said, I just think that the movies that we go see should reflect what's going on. Give us the action, give us the comedy, give us the drama, give us the Marvel, you know what I'm saying? But we also need that urban, inside look at what our community is looking like and going through now. You understand what I'm saying? But yeah, I'm about to get up out of here. I just want to tap in with y'all, man. Like I said, I ain't dropped a movie talking since November. You know what I'm saying? I just want to tap in with you, let y'all know I'm back. Let's get to it. Let's build this community. My numbers did slow down, but they didn't stop. You understand? Even now, this whole months that I haven't recorded since November, my numbers slowed down, but they didn't stop, and I definitely appreciate that. So again, if you want to hear different type of movie talk, man, you know what I'm saying? Like I say, I'm gonna keep saying it. I'll probably say it every episode. I'm not a critic. If you're thinking about that, this ain't the podcast. You know what I'm saying? I'm just here to just give you an overview of the movie, talk about it, break it down, whatever the case. You know what I mean? Just have a general conversation about the movie. I'm not here to dissect the movie. I'm just here to talk about it, in layman's terms. You know what I'm saying? Just chop it up with y'all about some movies that I like, man. So on that note, if you got a movie, please, all this information is in the description, but I'm going to say it again. themovietalkpod@gmail.com. Instagram, Rick_BHR. You could get with me and, we could chop it up. I'm out of here, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about a Sunday, Monday drop. We'll see. But yeah, man, we here. So add me, subscribe, follow, put it in your playlist. The Movie Talk Pod is back. Let's get it.